Hello again. So, did you do it? Did you do your homework? Did you write down your expectations for Steubenville and share them with your team? If you didn't, there's still time to do it. And I encourage you to do that because it's really only going to help your team have a better Steubenville experience, and it's going to help build the dialogue between you and your team about your faith. And that's what this is all about. Having your team having the best Steubenville experience possible and building the dialogue between you and your team about faith. So if you didn't get a chance to write down your expectations, please do that. Share it with your team. And for this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about the goal of Steubenville, what Steubenville's goal is for people who come to their conferences. And the number one goal Steubenville has, especially for new attendees, is that they get to meet Jesus Christ as a person. They get to experience Jesus not just as a person who they learned about in CCD, not just as a person who is in a history book of some sort, but as a real living person who wants to be in a relationship with you and with me. And that's the first thing. The second thing is to build a foundation to help a team take their spiritual life from wherever they are now to the next level, to build up a little bit higher, to get a little closer to Jesus, to go a little deeper in their faith. And so those two things are the goal, and everything at Steubenville revolves around those two ideas. So they have four main components at a Steubenville conference. They have Mass, Adoration, Music, and Speakers. If we start with Music and Speakers, the music is meant to be something that teens can connect with. So we have a live band, they have the electric guitar, they have the drums, they're doing drum solos, electric guitar solos, things like that. They have all sorts of singers harmonizing, and it's like a concert. But the music is all worship music meant for the Lord. And that is to sort of help bring the teens into the experience, to help them experience what it means to use music to worship God. And then the second part, speakers. The speakers are not teachers. They're not up there teaching like in a classroom. They're sharing their personal stories of faith, how God affected their lives, how they experienced Jesus throughout their life, how they came to know him as a person, and how their teens can do so too. And so Mass and Adoration then, of course, they follow all the guidelines of the church. So Mass and Adoration look very similar to where they do everywhere else in the world. But where they're allowed to take some leniencies, they do so. So for example, in Adoration, the priest is going to bring the Eucharist right up to all the kids and let them have a few seconds just real close with Jesus. Which obviously we don't do in our monthly adorations here. But it's an experience that helps the teens enter in more. Music is going to be going on during adoration. The live band's going to do the music. The live band's going to do the music for Mass. And it's again to help the teens enter into the Mass and experience, so that when they get home, we have something to work with to help them have a similar experience with Mass and adoration here in our church. Even though we don't have the live band and the priest carrying the Eucharist around to each person, being able to say, okay, you had this experience and this is the same Jesus. You just have to look for him. So that's what Steubenville is all about. For the challenge for this video, I want to encourage you to do this is, your teens are doing this too, take a spiritual inventory. Look at Mass, confession, and prayer, and give yourself a rating of 1 to 10 on each of those. So on a scale of 1 to 10 prayer, if you're a 1, that means you never pray, ever at all. And 10 is you're praying 7 or 8 times a day for about 10 minutes a piece, something like that. If your confession, a 1 is you've never been to confession since 2nd grade when your first confession was. 10 is you go once a week. And Mass, 1 is you don't go to Mass at all. 10 is you go every weekend, every weekday, and every opportunity you possibly can, you're at Mass. So give yourself a scale of 1 to 10 and share that with your team. And then work with your team to try and push you and your team to the next number up. So if you're a 5 on the prayer scale, try and get to a 6. If you're a 3 on the confession scale, try and get to a 4. Wherever you are, try and push yourself up one number, because it's going to do you good, growing in holiness, and it's going to do your team good, growing in holiness. It's also going to help them have a better Steubenville experience, because they're going to be a little more in touch with Jesus, they're going to be a little more in tune with their faith, and that's going to help their Steubenville experience. So, encourage you to take that spiritual inventory, encourage your team to do the same thing, share that with each other, dialogue about it, and work together to get to the next number, whatever number that may be. and I will see you guys in the next video.